Welcome to Support Life, a program focusing on current social issues from a life-affirming perspective. I'm Gavin Baulch and my guest is John Hendriks, the founder and executive producer of Support Life. Welcome.
Hi Gavin, how are you?
I'm very well indeed. Now, you've had a busy business year. You're a businessman. That's a gift that you've got. How's that gone?
Yeah, good. I've transcended between land development into housing and investment. We've had challenges out there and the market's changing. We're seeing in the property market that a lot of people are investing into Australia from other countries, especially from Asia. So that's challenging for people who live in Australia and who want to buy their first home or want to buy their first property. Funding is difficult at the moment. Trying to get finance for sites and projects is proving also a handful, but other than that, we're going okay.
Great. Now that sounds a little bit like this program, Support Life. There's a business acumen requirement there. How did things go? How's 2015 going for Support Life?
Well, quite good. I think there's a lot of things to be proud of, firstly, for what we've achieved in a short space of time. We're one of maybe only one or two other programs in Australia. In fact, we might only be the only program in Australia that's covering these issues. We started off at the end of 2013 with a thought and a plan. And the plan was that we wanted to make people aware of what the Law Reform Act was in relation to abortion. I wasn't aware of it. Most people I spoke to weren't aware of it. And we thought, there's got to be something in that, Gavin. How come people are not aware of it? We know these things are shrouded in secrecy. The then government said it would only be just a minor amendment to the Abortion Act, and little did we all know that it was a pretty significant amendment. But look, first it was anger. We were angered by the news, and we thought, what could we do? What could we tell people? How could we get it out there? The politicians were all ducking for cover. No one wanted to discuss it. And, oh yeah, that's something that happened a few years ago. Yeah, we're not really sure about all that. So myself and David McLaughlin and a few others sat down in a room and we spoke about potentially making a TV program about the Law Reform Act about abortion.
So here's this intent to, from our perspective, to inform people because they're not informed. Yeah,
look, I remember going to a couple of parties and a few, gatherings, a few church gatherings, and even people within our own community in church. I'd ask them about it, and everybody was unaware. And we thought, okay, there's really an opportunity there to, but where would we start? How would we get it off the ground? And fortunately, through our producer's contacts. He had some contacts at Northern Access TV, which I'm going to thank at the end of this program, who allowed us to put up a pilot, one show, and it was a success. They took us on board and gave us an opportunity, and that was at the end of 2013. And 2 years later, here we are, and we're really proud of our achievements. We've worked really hard. And there's a lot of people I'd like to thank soon for what we've achieved in 2 years.
Yes, good. Now, there are other changes, of course, and we'll look at that much later on, but you were talking about business and changes from that end. This is a business decision to move into a positive arena of informing the uninformed, or to cause people to think through an issue.
Yeah, look, that's been our number one primary focus, is awareness. We didn't want to condemn anybody. We just wanted to bring light to a subject that was in the dark. And as I found in our own communities, that many people were unaware, and I think we've positively done that. We've gone out we've asked people to come in and speak about what it is they're trying to do within this area, whether there be a doctor, whether there be a nurse, whether they be just providing support, whether they'll be someone who provides counselling. And the interesting part about it is that some of the people that have come on board have got a huge participation in this field. Some have written books, some have written several books. Some have got helpers which they've sorted and sat in outside clinics and peacefully prayed and tried to speak to people going into clinics, and have been doing that for years. Other people that we've interviewed and spoken to on our program are politicians, and part of a couple of them are current sitting members of Parliament. So it's not just religious people. It's just people who are, one, angered by what's happened, and two is they're out there trying to do something positively about it. And this type of media gives us the opportunity to sit down with them and speak to them one-on-one and hear what their views are and what they've achieved.
John, why do you think it's so hard to have people hear what we're saying?
Well, I think the issue of abortion and trying to change the Law Reform Act is a really difficult one. I think people are confused, they're unsure, and it is the elephant in the room, Gavin. I mean, I don't think there is any other bigger social issue in our society right now than the issue of abortion. I mean, if there is, I'd like to know what it is. I mean, I don't believe it's climate change. I don't believe it's the economy. I think it's definitely this issue of this free will under a current law that enables people to terminate for whatever the reason. I have to stand up and say, I believe it's wrong.
Well, for all our tree huggers, animal lovers, we'll come back to the elephant in the room. You're watching Support Life, and we'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Support Life. I'm Gavin Baulch, and my guest is John Hendriks, the founder and executive producer of Support Life. John, we were talking about the elephant in the room before.
We were, yeah. Look, possibly a wrap up for Support Life, for some of the work we've done this year, is that I think from the outside looking in, it would look like perhaps we're not winning the battle. The politicians, unfortunately, there are possibly one or two more that swing the pendulum towards them not changing the Law Reform Act or even lowering the level of acceptance levels of where doctors can stand on a conscientious opinion or vote. It looks like from the outside we're not winning, but I can assure you from the inside we're definitely making headway. There are a number of releases from the media where people within the media and are confirming that this area needs to be reconsidered and looked at. We didn't win one on the 150 metre exclusion zone, the buffer zone around the abortion clinics, and that's another thing that angers me slightly, but I suppose, as I said, from the outside it possibly looks like we're losing ground, but I can guarantee you from the inside and people I've spoken to that the program and the awareness is what we started to set out to do, Gavin, we've definitely done. On that note, I wanted to thank some of the people that have been on our show and perhaps just give them a quick mention, and wish to thank Eugene Wong, Barbara Smith, Gail, Dick and Debbie Pataki, the Iman Wadwood, Spiros Katos, Marcus John Lestrange, Margaret Ty, Marco D'Angelo, Natalie Gobb, Gerald Flood, Mirali Rich, Dr. Ivan Stradov, and Anne Lastman. Now, I wanted to ask you, Gavin, out of some of those, they're not all the people that you guys interviewed here on Support Life for 2015. What are some of the highlights that you've had interviewing?
Well, I'm going to be sort of a broad brushstroke. I think we've been blessed in having people from overseas visit these shores. As you mentioned earlier, they've written books. They are thinkers. In fact, they're martyrs too. They have paid a price to stand up to governments, take governments to court, and put the message out there, basically. I think one of the most wonderful little stories I heard was from a lady surnamed Dugan, and here's an older woman, probably retirement age, and suddenly realises that her conscience has been taken away from her, and she feels that she's lost something, and falls to her knees in front of her little altar and just shakes her head, Lord, what do I do? And just randomly opens the scriptures, her book of wisdom, and it's the story, the first chapter of Exodus, and it talks about Pharaoh and the midwives, and she was a midwife. And she's challenged to be the person to stand up to the Pharaoh of the modern day. And she spent years and years, her own money, her own effort, and not well to boot. What an example of persistence in genuine love and commitment. And her eyes are focused on the value and the importance of life. And I would have thought we are all lovers of life. Don't we want to live the max?
Absolutely, yeah. I know the lady you're talking about, and I think she's done an amazing job, and I've had the privilege of meeting her and hearing her speak. And her reward is not from this world, unfortunately.
That's right. And I think the other side is the youthfulness, the genuine hearts of those who have been under 22 that have been interviewed. Just lovely young adults, world changers, or life changers, one person at a time, is where I'd put it. Their love and their compassion for their fellow men and women is second to none. And you can see it in their eyes, the deep pools of life. You can see into their soul and just see how true and pure and what a blessing they're going to be to society as they gain on a few years.
Look, it's I think we're proud and fortunate to be part of and touched by people like that who, freely give their time, who fight towards social justice and the right, the right to life, and people can wave them off and say, oh yes, but they're doing it for their own goodwill, but that's not the case at all. Only if they really knew that these people are doing it out of their love and heart and just for the sheer joy of bringing good news and the truth, yes, and the light to something that has been hidden for so long, for so many years in our society and world.
Yes. One of the interesting interviews was actually my grandson, which is a bit close to family, but he had a young mother in her early teens, and abortion was on the agenda, and he wasn't. And now he's 21, and he talks about what he wants to do, what he wants to give back, how he's working with children, and how his mum is working with young mothers who have been thinking maybe not keeping the child, but she kept the child, and he's now 21, and he's going to change the world. And so it's that kind of story where people are involved, they make a good decision, and the outcomes are a blessing to all.
Pretty blessed and amazed, really, when you hear stories like that. And there are just so many like that, Gavin, and it's I just shake my head and I always think I could do more because I'm never doing enough.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm happy to be, looking at other things into next year, which we'll talk about, in our next chat segment.
Good.
And talk about perhaps what other things we've got coming into Support Life. But yeah, this journey is only the beginning, just the beginning, Gavin.
Thank you, John. You're watching Support Life. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Support Life. I'm Gavin Baulch and my guest is John Hendriks, the founder and executive producer of Support Life. Well, John, we've been looking a little bit of folks who have been the content of our show for a little while, and this is the last program for 2015. There's a few more thank yous you want to...
Absolutely. We spoke about how many people have been on the show and how many people are connected to the show and how many people work with us and behind the scenes to make this show. There probably has been about 100 odd people that have either been on the show or been interconnected with the show or had something to do with the show. So I'd like to thank all of those people, if I haven't mentioned each one and every person's name, but more specifically the people who are working on the show. Start off with your good self. So I really appreciate the challenges that you've had in being on the show and giving up your time and your family time, and there's a lot of sacrifices that you've made, so I wanted to personally thank you for doing that.
My pleasure. And
you've done a great job, by the way. The second person is the producer of the show, David McLaughlin. David is an incredible person. I'm really proud and delighted to be working with David. He's very talented and persistent, I'd have to say, in the works that he did. One, seeing the opportunity a couple of years ago and believing in the concept and the basis on which we formed a partnership, taking it up to Channel 31 through Northern Access TV, and hosting the show through thick and thin, and all the challenges he's had and we've had, on a business level, funding it, and on a personal level. So a big thank you to David McLaughlin for that.
Hear, hear.
The Northern Access TV, great people. We thank them for the persistent challenges that they've had in the relationships with Channel 31 and the funding issues, with government and things like that. They've persisted with that, and they've pushed and done a great job in airing our program. We really appreciate that. A couple of people behind the scenes. There's a couple of fill-in hosts that have come on from time to time. Geraldine Lee. I really like Geraldine's work. I think she's a saint in the making. She has a real heart for people, and she just has real genuine empathy. And she's devoted her life, all her life pretty much, to helping people in some form or another. And people like that are really hard to find, so I really appreciate Geraldine's work. Norm Curry, who I know has hosted a couple of programs when your good self hasn't been available, and so Norm's a very strong presenter. He presents the topics and the questions out of the interview, makes them feel comfortable and gets the best out of them. So I really like Norm, and I want to thank him personally as well. I hope he gets to see this program. There's been a couple of people behind the scenes. This year we've had a young lass by the name of Rebecca Walsh from the Youth Mission Team, who took over from Rebecca Cordina, also from the Youth Mission Team. Both young girls were pretty much thrown in the deep end and said, okay, here's a program, we need to speak to people, these are what the issues are, go and find them. Not given a great deal of tools, but they've had to work out where and when, and contact people, and just politely ask people to come in and speak about their issues and their terms. So big thank you to Rebecca and a new lady who's just joined us, a new young lady by the name of Danny Sullivan. Danny has the credentials, she has some media experience, and I think she may have even finished an arts and media degree or something like that, and she's had some experience in connection with what we're doing. So we're blessed to have her on our team. She's only new, but I'm really excited about the opportunities for next year, 2016, for our team and beyond.
Well, we had a chance to interview Danielle, and yes, she's got some gifts there, but the other girls have worked tirelessly, and one interstate as well, just holding things together while the newbies came onto stream. And so it's been a great pleasure just working with them, and the association that exists in Support Life because of the vision here of David and yourself. It's a family, and then of course those who we do have the chance of speaking with become part of the wider family, and we just have a plethora of talent, people who think, people who do their research, people who will take risks, people who will stand up, people who will still be there even after the knocks and blows do come. They're just faithful to the rich essence of life. Good Jewish statement, l'chaim, to life, comes to mind, and that's what it's about. It's a program looking at life and the issues that we should all be positive and creative in our presentations.
Look, you've summed it up really well, Gavin. So, I think given that everyone will roll up again next year, we hope, and we will look to be back and bigger and brighter and better than ever into 2016. I'm really looking forward to it.
Terrific, John. We'll call it the Back to the Future show. Thanks again, John, for your time.
Thank you, Gavin.
You've been watching Support Life, and that's all for our program today. Join us again next year. Goodbye.